a special guest that's going to be continuing our Circle series, Mariah, Wheelhouse. Everybody stand to your feet. Give her a round of applause. She's going to come up on stage. It's going to be good, you guys. It's going to be good. No, it's okay. I'll be your mic holder.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. Like he said, my name is Mariah Wheelhouse, and if you didn't know, most of you probably do, but I'm actually Sean's cousin, so we have known each other for a long time. Yeah, that's fun, right? Yeah, so we were in youth group together. We did lots of things together. Very good. But really quick, it's funny because I was trying to think of how to open this, and I couldn't think of anything, and I was like, well, I'm just going to dive right into it. But whenever, during worship, I was just in the back, and I was watching you guys, and I'm like, a lot of you really want God. And I almost started crying because I could just see it in the way that a lot of you were worshiping. And I'm like, wow, it is impressive to me that at the age that you are, that you really want God, especially this is a time in your life when it's just, you're building the key foundations of who you're going to be for the rest of your life. And the fact that so many of you really want God, I'm applauding you because it's good. And that connects to what I'm talking about. Also, I love this. Circles are better than rows. I'm like, oh, I like that. That's good. And so tonight we're going to kind of expand on that in a little bit of a abstract way. And the title of my sermon, you'll figure it out more towards the end what it actually means, but is Get the Chip Off Your Shoulder. And we're just going to dive right into it. Tonight I'm talking about how when you don't have a strong relationship with God, it makes it hard to have strong relationships with people. And so first what I'm going to do is give you 3 reasons why it's hard, and then 3 reasons to help you with that, to help all of us with that, because I'm preaching to myself, believe me. So the first reason that it can be hard is you'll find it hard to forgive and to give grace. In any real relationship and deep relationship, you have to have a lot of forgiveness and a lot of grace. And the deeper the relationship is, the more you have to do that and the more you have to learn how to do that. And I've had the privilege of having a lot of long-term and long-lasting relationships. And in that, there's been a lot of grace, a lot of forgiveness. And it wasn't always easy, but it was always worth it. And we're going to get into that a little more here in a little bit. Well, the second reason is you'll project your needs onto others instead of finding fulfillment for them in God. And don't get me wrong, God made us to have some of our needs met inside of community, and he did. But when we expect all of our needs to be met there, then we can easily get off track. And like I said, I'm going to go more into this here in a second. And the third one is you'll try to find your worth in others and not in God. And if you don't know and walk in who God says you are, then you're finding your worth in others. Because this is something that's very easy to do. And to find it in God, you have to be very proactive about that. So we're going to talk about that, and it's going to be good. So whether you find your worth in others by comparing, or finding your value in how well you do or don't measure up when you compare, or whether you find your worth in what you do and how well what you do is or isn't received, or whether that's by some standard that you've created in your head, whatever, that's still finding your worth in someone instead of God, where we're supposed to find it. I find myself doing this literally all the time, and especially whenever I was a teenager, I did this so much because I was homeschooled and I was in a lot of homeschool and church things. But for some reason, where I really wanted to be was in the popular crowd with all of the sports people. That's what I wanted. I don't know why, but that's just what I wanted whenever I was a teenager. But that wasn't I wasn't in public school. I didn't play sports when I was a teenager. Just that wasn't what it was for me, but that's what I wanted. But anyways, later on, that ended up getting me into wanting that and not finding that my value in God ended up getting me to a place that I didn't want to go. And I still do sometimes, it's hard to learn, but I always cared so much what everyone thought, and I would even think about what I thought other people were thinking about me. Not even what they're actually thinking, but what I think they're thinking. And I would put my value in what I thought the other people were thinking. I know that's a lot of words, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like something that we do in our minds. We think about that. At least I do. Maybe it's just me, but we think about that sometimes. Okay, so now we kind of went through the 3 things that can hinder that. Now let's go to the good part, the 3 things that strengthen our relationship with God and then cause us to strengthen our relationship with others. And the first one is when you know grace and forgiveness, you give grace and forgiveness. If you find it hard to forgive or give someone grace in an area, ask God to help you see if you've really accepted his grace for you in that area. Sometimes we find it hard to forgive because we haven't fully been allowed ourselves to be fully forgiven. And an example for me about that, well, kind of not one, an example for me about that that's good is like there was a couple months ago, we were like sitting in church or something here when I was sitting in this room, and someone, or I don't know if I just started thinking about it or if it was said, but someone brought up the topic of like having church hurt. And I was like, oh, I haven't ever had that. And I just left that there and a couple moments went by. And then I was like thinking, like my thoughts circled back around. And I was like, wow, I've been going to this church for 20 years, but I have no church hurt. And I was like I've never had my feelings hurt or anything by anything. And I was like, no, that's not true. Like I know that I have, but like I chose to let it go. So much so that it's not like sitting on my shoulder all the time and that I don't even like think of it right away. You know what I mean? But that's because like in the same way that I know God's forgiveness, then that allows me to extend it. You know what I mean? Like so much to the point that I didn't even think about it. You know? Like that is like truly how it's supposed to be. There's a verse in the Bible in Ephesians 4:32, and it says, "Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as Christ God forgave you." And also, I think it should also be said that sometimes it's okay and better to, like, there's some people in our lives that we let close that we shouldn't let close, and those people we can still forgive them, but that doesn't mean you have to give them trust back. And to know the difference, you have to have discernment from God, but then also have the right godly people in your life to help you see that. And that could be a whole entire sermon in and of itself, which we don't have time to talk about right now. But if you do want to talk about that more, then there's plenty of leaders here who'd be totally willing to help you and walk you through that. Yes. The second thing is when you know God meets all of your needs, you'll be able to help meet the needs of others, and you'll be able to accept help also whenever you need it, because God supplies all of our needs, no matter what season. And the way that God supplies our needs in each season might not always look the way that we want or expect it to, but that doesn't mean that he's not still meeting our needs. And it's also good to note that in different seasons, we have different needs, and that plays into our life and in our relationships, and that changes as life changes. And really quick, I'm kind of just gonna do like a rapid fire thing of, there's like the top 12 needs that we as humans need. And so I'm gonna read them, what the top 12 are, but then for each one, I went in the Bible and found like a verse that's connected to a story of how God meets that need for us. So then we can like be reminded and remember that God truly does meet all of our needs. So like I said, I'm just gonna kind of like rapid fire go through them. And if you wanna know what a certain verse is because you forgot to write it down or whatever, you can just totally come and ask me after. But the first one is attention. Isaiah 41:13 says, "For I, the Lord your God, hold your right hand. It is I who say to you, fear not. I am the one who helps you." The next one is acceptance. "Therefore, welcome one another as Christ has welcomed you for the glory of God," which is kind of like what Jaden was talking about. We love because he first loved us. The next one is appreciation. "Because you are precious in my eyes and honored, and I love you, I give men in return for you, people in exchange for your life." And that's Isaiah 43:4. Support. "Fear not, because I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." And that one's Isaiah 41:10. That one speaks to me especially because like If I'm holding something, look, I'm holding the microphone in my right hand. That's because my right hand is my dominant hand. And while there are still people who are left-handed, I see you, Shaylin. Most people are right-handed, and when there's something in your dominant hand, you can't do a lot. Like, I have a daughter, and whenever I hold her, I always hold her on my left hip so that I can use my right hand to do all the things that I need to do. Okay, I'm going to go through some more, but as I go through them, if one really sticks out to you, just like really listen to the verse that I'm saying. Let God speak to you through it. The next one is encouragement. This is crazy because this is the same verse that Sean just read. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, and your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Affection. Jeremiah 31:3 says, I have loved you with an everlasting love. Therefore, I have continued my faithfulness to you. Respect. God gave us a choice to choose him or not. And he was so committed to respecting each of our individual choices that he sent his son to die, knowing that everyone would not even choose him. Security. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon at night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. Psalms 121, 5-8. Next one, we're almost done, is comfort. God is our refuge and strength and ever-present help in trouble. That's from Psalms 46. And did you also know that there are over 365 reminders not to fear in the Bible? I don't know about you guys, but I struggle with like fear or anxiety pretty often, even in this area. Like the area that relates to people and relationships, but there are more. That means there's more than a reminder for every single day that we don't have to fear. Approval, for you were created in your inner being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Psalms 139. And then belonging, consequently, you are no longer foreigners and strangers, but fellow citizens with God's people and members of his household. That's from Ephesians 2. And the last one is purpose. It says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. If we do not allow our needs to be met by God first, then we will look for them incorrectly in others. God did make us to have needs that are met in community, but they are made to be met in God first. Like I said, if we don't find ourselves in God first, we won't find any of these fulfilled in a healthy way in others. I was going to make like two categories, like needs met in community and needs met in God, and like go through the difference of them. But then as I was thinking about that, I was like, I don't think that's the right way of looking at it, because all of our needs are met by God, but sometimes the ways that he does that are different. Like I could be like praying, be like, I need community, but then God might prompt someone to reach out and plan something, or to invite me to something, or whatever. Or he might prompt you to do that. Or you might be like, I need money, and God might prompt someone to give you money. Or your parents might be able to help you with that. Or like, you know what I mean? Or like you might be like, I need peace. God is full of peace, and we can go to him at any time and get some. He's always there, always offering it. There's a verse, and it says, look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, yet God feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? And that's from Matthew 6:26-27. We have to know that our needs are met in God and God only. But then, like I said, through that, then he allows some of our needs to be met through community, because he made us for community. But if we incorrectly project our needs onto everyone, then we'll be disappointed. And so the third thing, when you know your worth is found in God alone, you can be confident in and truly enjoy relationships, because your worth isn't found in them. They can add to it in different ways, but that's not ultimately where your worth is found. Our worth is found in God and God alone. Let's think about it. Where does a baby look to find their worth? They can't measure their worth by accomplishments or achievements because all they do is like cry, eat, and go to the bathroom and sleep. So it's like, it's like all of us do that. It's like, oh, like, that's not, they don't look to themselves to know their value. And it's the same with us. Like, we don't look to ourselves to know our value. We look to God. And God says that we are like priceless. God says that we are to die for. And he sent Jesus to die for us. And we have to know that that is where our worth is found. If you don't find your worth here in God, in Jesus, then you're finding it somewhere else, because we all find it somewhere. And if you try to find your worth in anyone or anything other than God, you will always end up being disappointed. But examples of when you know who you are and who God says you are, and you are found firmly inside of him, then it changes you and it changes the way that you interact with people. For example, if you know your worth is found in God, it won't bother you so much when not everyone always agrees with your opinion. Or if you know your worth is found in God, it won't matter how many likes or followers you do or don't get. If your worth is found in God, it won't matter so much if you have all the new clothes or the car or the shoes or the phone or whatever. If your worth is found in God, you'll be more confident to go sit with the kid who sits alone, because you won't care so much about what other people think about you. Or you'll be able to talk about God in general, because you'll be more concerned with what God says and what God has shown you to do than what other people will think about what God showed you to do. Or if your friend hangs out with another friend, you won't lose your mind over it, because you know your value. And you'll be able to be more vulnerable with people, because you know that your value is not in what you have or have not done. The other day, I was on a run, and I was thinking about today and how I was going to be preaching. And I randomly just started thinking about, that saying where it's like, when they say, I have a chip on my shoulder, or so-and-so has a chip on their shoulder. It's like, that means that your emotions are just kind of like right here all the time. And everything's just kind of sitting right here. It's like, oof. But I was thinking about that. And I was thinking about how when we don't know our value in God, we not only have like a chip on our shoulder, but when we project our needs onto other people, and when we project our worth onto other people, then we're subconsciously placing that chip on other people's shoulders. And I'm like, whew. And the chip, obviously it's just a chip. It falls off and I know this is an analogy, but just imagine with me here. The chip falls off so easily, let alone on someone else's shoulder when they don't even know that it's there. But sometimes we don't even know that it's on ours or that we're doing this. And whenever I was telling my husband Jordan about this, I was telling him just all of this that I'm telling you. He was like, oh, I have a chip on the shoulder story. And I was like, okay. He's like, whenever I was in high school, every day, I'm like, every day, okay. Every day, this guy would walk up to him and brush chip crumbs off of his shoulder, because every day he would eat chips in his lunch, and he would go like this to get rid of the crumbs, but they would just go right here. And then so the same person every day would just walk up to him, be like, and I'm just every day, I'm like, wouldn't you learn something after the second, third time? He's like, no. And I was like, all right, okay. But sometimes we're like that though. We just get we have a chip on our shoulder, and we just continuously do it, and we don't try to change anything about it or anything like that. But also, just as an adult, I've learned a lot as I've grown up, and I know that I will continue to. But there's a couple things that I always remember, especially lately. But everyone is going through a lot at different times. And most of the time, even the people that you're closest to, you don't know everything that they're going through. And life is constantly changing. Your life is constantly changing. Their life is constantly changing. God is constantly moving things and people around. So I realized, especially lately, that I gotta know who I am. I gotta know that my worth is in God and God only. And 2, I gotta give people the benefit of the doubt. I gotta believe the best. And 3, I gotta not wear a chip on my shoulder or on anyone else's shoulder either. There's another verse in Matthew 7. And I don't have it in my notes because I didn't write it down for some reason. So hopefully, oh, there we go. Yeah, it says, everyone who comes to me and hears my words and does them, I will show you what he is like. He is like a man building a house who dug deep and laid the foundation on the rock. And when the flood arose, the stream broke against that house and could not shake it because it was well built. If we don't build ourselves and our lives on the rock of Jesus, then our relationships will be like sand and they will not be sturdy. If you, like I said before, if you try to find your worth anywhere else other than Jesus, you will be disappointed. Also, just like a little side note thing that I felt like I was supposed to say is this can also go, like, say that, I know that most people here, or I think at least, most people here want to have like a significant other, want to have like a boyfriend or a girlfriend. They want to be married one day. And like, even though that's something that you may not have right now or today, in the same way of putting our like worth in like other people or needs on other people, if you're in that place, we can, and I know because I did it when I was there, but we can like put our value in a relationship that we don't even yet have. And it's the same thing. Like, then it can cause us to be like disappointed or like depressed or whatever, but it's because we're putting our value in a relationship that we don't yet have, but that we want to have. And the same is true. That will disappoint you also. That is not what God wants for you either. Even though God does have like a specific plan for each person and he knows the desires of your heart. But at the same, like inside of that, we have to trust him and we have to know our worth in him. And then trust me, when you get married, it'll help too, okay? It always helps to know that your worth is found in God and God only. If you're not intentionally finding your worth and building yourself in your value in Jesus, like literally every single day, then you're unintentionally setting yourself and your relationships up for failure. Walking in who you know God says you are is a very conscious and proactive thing. It is not reactive. If it's reactive, it's not healthy. It's negative. An example of this is like, I'm kind of gonna be talking towards the girls for a second, but this is the example that I came up with. Like every day when I look in the mirror, I don't just automatically think that I'm like pretty or whatever. That's not what I naturally think. I naturally think and pick apart every single part that I can try to pick apart about myself. I'm sure guys that do that too, but just maybe not including the word pretty or whatever. But like, you know what I mean? But so I have to intentionally remind myself what God says about me, and intentionally remind myself that I have the same face that I thought was pretty 5 days ago, and I have to intentionally remind myself what God says and how that is the truest thing about me. And then as I do that, I can slowly start to see myself the way that he sees me. But we have to be very intentional about it, and that goes into all areas of our lives. Because we have to be intentional to know who we are and whose we are, because who we are not is constantly coming at us all day long. And when we measure ourselves by how we compare, how we do things, or how well we have it compared to others, we open the door to things like jealousy, lust, addiction. You can even be addicted to other people's approval and affirmation of you. And I actually have struggled with that for years. Sometimes I still do. But those types of traits, they ruin true relationships. But I know now more than ever that knowing who you are and whose you are can slowly take that chip off your shoulders and allows less striving, less bitterness, less comparing, less jealousy. All those things start to slowly fade away, making relationships so much more life-giving. So much more life-giving. How? Let me give you a little bit of how. You gotta have the right godly voices in your life. How do you know if someone is a potential for a godly voice? Well, do they go to church? Do they seek God? Do they read their Bible? Do they read your Bible? I mean, yeah, it's good to read Bibles together, but do they read their Bible? And do they actually, I know this seems like kind of a, that one, but it's like, do they actually care about you? Because I'm like, there's sometimes, or at least there were some times whenever I was a teenager and I was hanging out with people, they did not actually even truly care about me. It's like, that should be an easy one, but sometimes it's just not, especially if that person is like in some sort of status or place that we want to be in or whatever. It matters who you let around you, who you let close to you. And another one is we have to spend time with God to have a good relationship with him. And this happens the same way that any other relationship does. I think sometimes we think of God in like a distant, far off way because like he's so big and we hear all these things about him and like we kind of make him feel far away sometimes, but he is closer than we realize. Yeah, he is. Plus, you can do the same things with him that you do with anyone else. Just invite him into it. Or you can read, write, listen to worship music, go on a walk, talk to him. Just invite him in to where you are and read his word too, because it changes things. God is always with you. You just have to acknowledge that he is. In all the craziness of life, it is good to slow things down and acknowledge that God is simply there in your relationships. Invite him in. If something needs to be changed, then just ask him, be like, God, show us. God, show me. If there's something, God, you want to do here, show me. There's a lot to be learned from simply being with God. And your time alone with God causes more things with and for others to naturally flow out of you. Whether that's like restoration in a relationship, deeper connection in your relationships, ideas of things to do, or even things like how to connect or serve other people, or even just a heart to do the things that God is calling you to do and to be the friend and the daughter or sister or brother that God is calling you to do. I don't know about you, but I want to be still with God as much as I do all the other things that I do with others. And as we kind of start to come in for a close here, the band can come back up, and then also the prayer team, if you guys could come down too. But just as we're kind of closing here, I just want to say that as we start doing this song, because we're going to do this song Lean Back again, and as we do that song, I just really want us to lean in to who God is. Like Jaden was saying earlier. And even like Sean was saying too, there's kind of a reoccurring theme that God is here. God is making a way for us. God wants a relationship with us. So let's lean into him and just let him show us our worth. Let him be the provider of our needs and allow him to open our eyes to ways that we're not doing that. Or to show us if we do have a chip on our shoulder, or if we put that on other people's shoulders. I know I'm totally guilty of that. Just let's ask him to open our eyes, to show us that, and then to be open to whatever that he shows us. So if you guys could all stand up, I'm going to pray, and then we will do that song. God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this evening. We thank you for this opportunity to come together and to hear more about you, God, and how you want to connect with us, and how you want to know us, and how you want us to be able to have a relationship with you, God, knowing that you meet and provide for all of our needs, and that we can find ourselves in you. And as we find ourselves in you, you will deepen and just restore and heal and make our relationships so much more full of the fruit and all of the things that you want for us, God. I pray that we would be willing to see what you show us, to open our eyes, to see ways that we are carrying a chip on our shoulder or on other people's shoulders, or how we've put our needs or our worth in other people, God. Open our eyes to that. And I pray that we would see you and that we would find ourselves in you, and that we'd lean back, that we would lean, truly lean. You lean when you're close. So God, I pray that you would help us to learn to lean, truly lean on you. In Jesus' name, amen.